Okay, so this is lesson 1.1. The title, Who Do You Think You Are? That's like a complaint. You need to know that this is a very typical sentence, a typical question. Hey, what do you think? Who do you think you are? Okay, so that's the normal, the overtone given to that sentence. Okay, so in the grammar aspect or part of this lesson, we are going to look at question forms. This is rather important because most of the times in casual conversation in English or in any other language, what we are doing is asking questions and answering questions. How are you? Good. How are you? Fine. Did you go to work today? So this is a very, very useful part of language, and it's very important that you master how to form questions. Okay. We're going to talk about family, so family related vocabulary, and that's exactly what we are going to do. Try to talk about your family in general using such vocabulary. The first activity is a speaking activity. As usual in this textbook, this is something that we are going to do in the class. Obviously, you don't have people to talk to at home, probably. And these are the type of activities that we need to do in class. Then we have the vocabulary activity. We're looking at the family vocabulary again. And like in the example given to you here, you've got to take those questions and match them. Like, do you know a lot about your family history? And then try to find the answer, the right answer between A and J, okay, those letters. The answer to that one, quite a lot. My parents told me a lot of stories about my background. So matching questions with answers. We've got a vocabulary bank activity. We need to go to this page 148. Once there on page 148, you've got this activity with the vocabulary for the family. You've got a box with the expressions like in-laws, sister-in-law, etc. Mind the pronunciation, law. Okay, it's not a diphthong, it's just a vowel, law. And you've got to put them in the gaps here and the family tree. Okay, this is the family tree and it starts with this person there. So everything is in reference to this person. Next, we've got activity 3A, a reading activity. You've got here in the green background an article entitled Who Do You Think You Are? And you need to first of all read it and try to answer this question. What kind of things do you think those celebrities there, Colin Jackson, Davina McCall, etc., they discover? And then read again and try to answer the questions 1 to 6 in here. Next, activity 3D, it says underline the words or phrases in the text that match the meaning. So you have a definition here. They tell you paragraph 2. So you'll have to go here to the text, and here you've got the paragraph numbers. It has to be a word contained within this paragraph. And that's what you have to do for the other ones in here. The next activity, 5A, is a listening activity. First of all, you need to listen to an interview with a man describing his family history and answer this question. Which family members does he talk about? You listen by clicking here on this button. Then try to answer this question. Then you listen again, clicking again, and then try to listen to the questions 1 to 5 in here. When you finish and you check your answers in Moodle, you can still try to listen to this one more time. When you click on 8, there is an option here. You can pull out the captions or the subtitles, and they will be highlighted in yellow as they talk along. So it's a very good idea to stop or pause the listening activity and try to maybe check a word that you don't understand in your dictionary, in your online dictionary, etc. And even more, when you finish doing this and you've checked up or looked up the words in the dictionary and you know what they mean now, listen to that one more time, this time pulling that off, okay? And try to, again, identify those new words in context and remember their meaning. That's a very good listening activity. In this activity, you're supposed to read those questions 1 to 5 and then do or follow these instructions here. It says, A, underline the main verb in each question. Okay, so you have an example here in number 1. This is the main verb. Okay, or instruction B says circle the auxiliary verbs. Okay, so this is what they do. We do it a little bit differently in the Moodle platform, but still you can try to do it first on the book like that and then check it up in Moodle. Since we are now looking at grammar, the next thing is we need to go to the back of the book on page 128 and look at the language bank that corresponds to unit or lesson 1.1. And this is what we can do by clicking on here in the electronic version of the book. If you go there, you've got the language bank. Here you've got the 1.1 section, right? And like we said at the beginning, question forms are very important in everyday casual conversation. So they write here a typical structure for a question, okay? Where do you work is the example. So you've got a question word, like where, what, when, how, etc. Auxiliary verb if necessary, and this is for some particular or for most verbs. But remember, we've got verbs like the verb to be or the verb have got, and you build them up or form them in a different manner because you invert the subject in those sentences when you use those verbs as the main verb. In any case, you then have subject verb. So this is typically the same structure for every sentence in English, except for, like I said before, like the verb to be, have got, and several other exceptions. But most of the time you're going to have subject verb and the rest of the sentence. In this case, since they are questions, you've got something before, question word and auxiliary verb. But these are not, let's say, content words. These are not words like a verb or a noun. These are words that are more related to the form. Hence, question, they form a question. Okay, so these are open questions, how you form them. An open question is a question that you can answer in many ways. And then we've got the yes-no questions. The yes-no questions have exactly the same structure, but there is no question word. Okay, in here there's no question word. Okay, so what you need to do is to read this part at your own pace. Then you'll have to go to the page next to it and do activities 1 and 2. So here it says write questions for the answers in italics. So you've got the answer here, I live in Madrid, and the expression in Madrid is in italics. Okay, so letters are tilted towards the right. That means italics, okay? So the typical question for this would be, where do you live? Because you are looking for this content word. Okay, you've got to do the same for the rest here. And in the second activity, it says that you need to put the words in brackets, so those two words, etc., in the correct places to make a question. The first one, president killed who? Okay, so the example would be, who killed the president? Remember that this is a question with no, it's a subject question, so it doesn't need an auxiliary. Okay, you need to look that up in here and review it. This was a basic 2-level kind of grammar content. Next activity 7a is to practice, so you need to put these sentences in the right order. So this one, do you see your family every day? Okay, so you just need to unscramble the words and form a right question. And this activity is something we'll do in class. So if you move on to page 10, there you've got the rest of the lesson. There is a writing here, emails of introduction. So you need to write this down or read this information, read the emails, and try to decide why the people are writing and which sentences tell us that. So what's the intention of the writer? That's what you need to look at. And when you decide and look at that, you need to move on to exercise 10, where it says read the 5 stages or phases or steps of email writing, and then answer this question: do the emails in exercise 9b, so the previous one, follow all those stages? And these are the stages or phases or steps. Okay. Next, it says learn to write formal and informal emails. They tell you to look at the sample emails on these activity, these 2, okay, and decide which one is informal and which one is more formal, and to try to see how do you know. Then you need to answer questions here. Which email uses full forms of the verb? Remember, these are full forms and these are contractions, okay? And which ones are or leave out words, so you drop words, you don't express everything, or you don't write everything. And which one sounds more like spoken English? Which one uses longer or more complex sentences? This is pretty simple, very easy to see in those 2 examples. And then they tell you to complete the notes. These are notes with phrases from the email. So these are typical expressions like greeting, so saying hello. Opening line, this is an opening line. An opening line is this here, right? Introduction, or when you say goodbye, etc. And finally, it says read the instructions below and write the emails. Think about who you are writing to, so who's your audience, who's your addressee, who's the person who's going to read your email, why, the reason why you are writing, and if you need to use formal or informal style for these 2 situations. Okay?